afternoon, everyone. What a great day we're having. I'm super happy to be here and welcome our next guest, the Chief Marketing Officer of Poshmark, Tristan Young. Stephen, thanks so much for being with us today.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me, Carryl. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here today and to share with you guys a little bit more about the company and a little bit of the work that we do.
Me too. So for anyone who's been living under a rock and has no idea what Poshmark is, can you just give us a short elevator pitch about the company?
Sure. So Poshmark, the way we talk about it externally is it's a social marketplace for new and used goods, which can cover both fashion, home goods, accessories, beauty, sneakers. We are in several different countries besides the US. We've actually launched in 2 other countries this past year. And so for us, we're basically a marketplace where people can engage with each other and use social tools, whether it's buying, liking, sharing, in order to actually sell and share their goods as well online.
Awesome. So I've heard you talk a little bit about your path to CMO, and I know it was very intentional in the way you maneuvered your career. You went to a lot of different high growth companies, from financial services to food delivery, and then now fashion. So what was it specifically about Poshmark that really appealed to you?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think there's a couple of things. First of all, I've actually never worked for a fashion company in the sense that, one, it's both a fashion company and that it really is always on the cusp of emerging trends of what people are wanting to buy and sell. It's a new form of a marketplace. It's not like your typical, like, let's say eBay, where it's like people just buy now. There's a lot more interactions. And number 3, I really find the fact that there's an element of sustainability. We're actually selling and reselling goods instead of actually buying new. I think all these 3 things, when I thought about it from a career standpoint, really attracted me because, one, it's not something I've ever worked with. It's not an area that I've ever actually had a lot of expertise in. Like I said before this, I was in food delivery, I was in financial services. I've also done like web hosting. And for me as a marketer, I actually find it fundamentally interesting to sort of always try to attack a new industry and try to see what part of the different experiences I had from different marketing functions or different companies can I apply? Because it's not a one size fits all. It's not a copy and paste. So I think that challenge to me ultimately was the most interesting thing about joining Poshmark. Separate from the fact that there's an incredible community of users who actually sell on the platform to support themselves. So separate from, like, I think the sustainability, there's a selling element where there's an economic impact at an individual level. And then there's also, like I said, for me, just being able to join another high-tech company where, you know, the founders have been here since the very beginning. They're incredibly passionate about building this marketplace and growing it, not just within the US, but globally. That was a vision that I really was excited about and I wanted to be a part of. And, you know, I actually just hit my 3-year mark this October, and I can't believe how fast time has passed. But to me, it feels like, I've learned so much. 2, I feel like I've accomplished so much with the team, growing it, expanding it, getting them to think about new channels and new ways of doing marketing. But for me, it has been everything I've wanted in the role. And I'm just really fortunate and grateful to have been able to land in a really great place.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that when you find the right role and it just perfectly fits and you're just like, this is the job for me. You talked a little about the sustainability piece, which I love too. And I actually recently was on Poshmark. I think I started buying on Poshmark in 2020. So I'm not that often on it, but I'm often on it enough. So I noticed the term posher they talk about, and it's like, hi Posh, I get my emails and it's like, check out this Posher's profile. How did that name come about, the Posher name?
You know, so I actually tried to find out what, because I wasn't here for obviously this is the very beginning, but I will say that I think it happened rather organically. If you actually think about the original name of the company, it was actually Brosh Posh. So Poshmark was actually an evolution of that name. And I think the idea was like, because it was fashion, because it was about style, we wanted something like a moniker that people could sort of like use to actually engage with each other. And it just happened that the words themselves just happened to naturally flow. And I think it came about probably through, you know, the way we talk about our community, which is what's different about Poshmark from others, that there's always a focus on the people. And how do you talk about the people without saying, oh, it's our customers, it's our sellers? I think our Poshers came through, and I think that just happened organically. There's probably not one seminal moment where it all came out, but I do think it speaks a lot to how the company thinks about its customers. It also thinks about its employees. We use the same term for our employers, or sorry, our employees, that everyone is part of one big family. I've always said that, you know, companies treat their employees the way they treat their customers. And it's often a very, very common style. And I think for us, having the same name for how we talk about our employees and our customers speaks a lot about how we think about the whole ecosystem as one.
I like that. And do you help the community at all define itself, or are there characteristics of a posture as well?
If you ever go to one of our real life events, which have been a big part of the community, which obviously has stopped a lot in the last couple of years, but we're going to be restarting in 2022. I think there's a couple of things. Incredibly passionate. Our community and of sellers are people who are just rabid. They love giving feedback. They love speaking out about different features that we launched. They love welcoming others. So I think that sort of passionate, which is both at an individual level as well as a sort of community level, is incredibly defining of a posture. Number two, it's people who are also really scrappy. They know how to they figure out how to sell to survive, right? And to make money. And I think that's a big element, is like people who have a lot of what I call grit. And it's probably why, we launched a charity campaign this year called Heart and Hustle, because even those two elements really define our community. There's like a lot of heart and there's a lot of hustle. And it's something that we wanted to honor by actually creating this charitable giving vehicle. And I would say number three, it's individuals who are also just want to have a sense of agency around their lives, right? They're mothers, they're students, they're full-time workers. They want to be able to say, like, I like my job, but I want to make money on the side too. And how can this platform help me? And I think these are individuals, like I said, I don't like to call it the gig economy, because I think the gig economy has a zero-sum game. If I'm driving an Uber, there's really nothing else I can do. But if I'm a stay-at-home mom and I want to sell, I think of it more as like a passion economy, right? It's like people love fashion, they love selling, they can do it while they're taking care of their kids, they can do it while they're going to school, they can do it while they're holding a full-time job. I think those are three things that really help define this community, is, like I said, that passion, that heart and the hustle, that sort of scrappiness, as well as like that ability to kind of have a sense of agency in their own lives.
Yeah, the passion, heart, and hustle. It's funny because when I first got on the platform, I was sort of overwhelmed because all of a sudden all these people were following me. I was like, oh my God. I was like, why are they following me? I'm just coming here to buy something.
Yeah.
And you're right. So I think, our audience really wants to understand, Poshmark has all these social features. So like I said, I can follow the postures, I can gain followers, I can view, like, and share stories. It's very much like a social platform, and ask questions too. So what does the social element bring to the e-commerce experience? And how has that made Poshmark, different than other platforms that might be out there?
That's a great question. I would say it is probably one of the most core defining things about us. I say it as like, we're not Amazon with a like button, but we're also not Facebook with a buy button. It's something in between, in that the way I describe this is, whenever you want to list an item, right? So say you're selling on another platform, you either wait until it gets discovered by the algorithms, or you send out a newsletter, or you create a website, you try to figure out SEO, or you try to send out emails to other friends. Here, the fact that you're sharing your closet to other people means other people can find it. The fact that you're liking other people's items, or other people liking your items, like a like is basically a lead generator. So when 10 people like your item, you've got 10 people said, I'm interested in your item, and you can create a different offer for all 10 people, a special offer, a private offer, a generic offer, and then basically drive sales. So in some ways, we've taken a lot of these social features, like the liking, the sharing, and actually turned them into sort of commerce tools for people to be able to sell on their own without having to figure out SEO, without having to figure out the intricacies of what Google marketing. But when you share inside the app, you're taking things that you're already doing everywhere else, right? You're doing that on Facebook, you're doing that on Instagram, and then saying, hey, these things that you're so used to, imagine if you could use those exact same features to actually sell. How amazing would that be? And I think that's what people discover when they stay on Poshmark, and they sort of get more immersed into the community and the platform, is that, sales don't happen just because you list. If you have a great photo, you've got a great content, it's one thing, but when you share, and our CEO says, when you give love, you get love back, right? And sharing other people's closets, helping other people discover items, that's a huge part of that ecosystem that actually feeds into this social commerce experience.
Yeah, it's kind of both, right? So, because one of the questions I'm going to ask you is like, is it a social network with options to buy, or is it a buying platform with options to socialize? And does that affect your strategy in how you're thinking about it?
So the way it does affect our strategy, and like I said, this is the most amazing part of one of the things I've learned, is that, in typical e-commerce companies, it's very much like, okay, you've got a 10% offer, right? That you give to everyone and hope that the sales come in, or you do an advertising. Here, we do some of that, but I think the most important thing that we can do is get people to interact with each other. Like, how do you get a seller to want to engage with their followers, a seller to want to provide offers to their followers? By actually having sellers do that, we're becoming partners with them and helping them sell instead of us doing all the work and then just listing. Like I said, it's definitely something that, for the first couple of times you do it, you're like, you don't get it, but then you're like, oh, okay, I get it now, right? But how many times have you been on a social network? You're like, wait, how does this work again? It takes a little bit of getting used to. I remember the first time I used Snapchat, I was like, wait, so how does this work again? And I think that's for everyone. But once you understand it and you get that idea, it becomes a lot more natural. And you're like, oh, of course I'm gonna, like something. Of course I'm gonna share someone else's closet or share my closet, or I'm gonna change the listing and change the images. So many features that we develop aren't just built for driving immediate commerce. They're also built for helping people sell and for people to discover. And so in that way, a whole product strategy is just not just around figure out how to, list an item and sell it immediately. Like you want some interaction too, but you also want people to like monetize, and we call it to get liquidity. So I think it's a little bit of both, like having that commerce mindset, but also thinking about what are those interactions that make people want to be involved, that make it fun for people and that make it interesting.
Yeah, you must spend a lot of time thinking about that too, because, when I think about like the early days of social, it used to be about community building, right? And social, now it's really more about community engagement. So I recently attended a denim party on Poshmark, and that was kind of fun. I liked a blouse. I thought it was really cute. And then I got an offer from the seller. I think he gave me like a 10% off with, I think reduced shipping or something. And then I countered, which I didn't know you could do. I was like, oh, I countered. And then all of a sudden it was mine. And I got the blouse, and it's beautiful, by the way. It came beautifully packaged with lovely tissue wrap and all of that stuff. So it was really super nice. So these kinds of engagement ideas, are you guys brainstorming those yourselves? Are you partnering with the sellers to come up with some of the engagement ideas between the community of the buyers and the sellers? Like, how does that work?
So it's a little bit of both. I do think our team brainstorms a lot of these things and always kind of keeping in mind, how do you think about social commerce features? How do you drive what we call fan out? At the same time, we listen to a lot of our customers. Like I said, we have so many passionate customers who give feedback directly to our CEO, sometimes directly to me. And those are great. And like I said, hey, we want more of this, we want more of that. Every year we have an event that we call Poshfest, where we actually, release a lot of new features, give people a lot of previews, and a lot of those are from surveys and that we've fielded, that we've heard from customers. So it's very much like a 360 loop. Now, do we do everything that customers ask? No. Do we try to find the ones that we think are going to work best for the largest number of people? That's usually how we think about it. And I think that's what makes it fun also, is that it's exciting for sellers to see features they requested. And I will say a lot of our other competitors often copy a lot of the features we have. And, I think of that as a sign flattering that we're creating features that people want and they're interested in, and we're thinking about people first. Our mission is around making sure that we put people at the center of making sure that they are able to sell well and that they can actually do what they want and make money at the same time. When the technology happens to be the means, but the connection to people, the connection to selling, the connection to buying, those are all things that the platform itself makes come to life.
Nice. Yeah. At some point, I feel a little intimidated. At some point, I'm going to sell something, but then I'm afraid everyone's going to want to see my closet.
No, you know what? So I think that's something that people are not, I don't know, today's style-minded consumers, I think, are more likely to want to share their closet and be proud of what they have. And you'd be surprised. It's a lot of the things, I actually am more of a seller than I'm a buyer, because I have a lot of stuff that, as obviously as everyone else, our lives have changed so much in the last 2 years. I have a lot of leather shoes I used to wear as a loafers that I just don't wear as much. And so I've been selling them, and it's great because they actually go to different parts of the country. And that's the other thing, is we are all Poshers are from all around the country. I often see sellers from the East Coast, being sold to people on the Midwest, people in the Midwest also selling to people in the South. It's all around the country. When you actually see the trends from a data standpoint, it's utterly amazing that there's so much interaction between people from all around the country. Yeah,
it's incredible. And I love that you've launched globally too already, which is awesome. So I know you also recently invested in Snapchat, right? You guys launched a Snapchat Mini, and the idea of mini apps seems to be following in the footsteps of China's super app. So people would be able, can't even talk. People would be able to go on a platform like a WeChat, and they're primarily there for chatting, right? But then they can also access other apps for other utilitarian, reasons. So where do you see Poshmark heading as you think about the future and you start to test and learn new technology strategies?
So that was definitely one that, like I said, I can speak to it more on a high level. That's an area that we were really excited to partner with Snapchat. It's the first time we've taken one of our features, which is our Posh Parties, and actually integrated into a third-party app. And for us, it's just another way to say, how do we drive more exposure of our sellers' inventory, not just within our own app, across others? And I think that just, I would say, opens up a new way for us to think about, we want to drive everyone to our app, but also, are there other ways for us to drive people in the app, not just through paid marketing channels, but through our own channels, but also through other people's sort of feeds and channels? And I think we've also been, a strong partners with others in the social, media space, where they've all moved to having what they call feeds in all of their different platforms. And we want to make sure that we are able to leverage their data with our inventory to match it to you seeing stuff that you care about. And like I said, making sure that we get you what you want and you get to buy it, right? I think instead of saying, hey, go to a store or go to an e-commerce store, like you might be scrolling through a feed on any one of the number of platforms and suddenly see an item that you like because, hey, you happen to have just visited the Prada website and you like see that an item, on Facebook being sold by Poshmark is actually like Prada shoes. That just creates a better experience overall for both you as a user on their platform, but also for you as a buyer in our platform.
Yeah.
It's really taking all those social signals on both sides and letting the magic of algorithms work in AI in order to match each of the things that you care about and that you are interested in purchasing.
Yeah, it's fascinating how AI is just sort of going to be able to predict the things that we might want to purchase and just sort of put them out in front of us, going into the future. Yeah. So you said before that you've been a seller mostly on Poshmark. What's the best thing you've ever sold?
I think it's just selling my Ferragamo shoes. I think it's just, for me, they were something that I loved. They were one of the first pairs of shoes I had. And I think what's really special about the way we do our platform is that when people sell, they're selling things that mean a lot to them. They're selling things that have had a special meaning in their lives, and to give it to someone else who's going to be able to enjoy it means that it's me kind of like sharing the love and passing it on versus just saying, okay, well, I just want to donate to Goodwill, which I think is also a valid option. But to have someone else who then tells you, oh my God, I love the shoes, they fit perfectly, and gives you a great seller rating. I think that's part of the magic is as a seller, you see people taking things that you love and buying it. As a buyer, you are able to get something that you actually have been looking for, but is not available. I always think that there's an element of the treasure hunt that's amazing on the platform, finding things that you never thought were available anymore. There's an element of what I call the buy now or cry later, because it might only be one of that item, so you want to get it. And I think that's part of what makes it fun.
Yeah. Great. Well, we're almost at the end of our conversation here. So I just thought, is there anything that you want to leave our audience with? Brand Disruption Summit is all about, startups and incumbent brands, and we've got founders and people on the retail, supply chain. So is there anything you want to leave them when you think about the idea around community engagement and building loyalty?
How you think about your community, especially your followers, your buyers, is really the new loyalty, right? I think back in the day, and I think it's something we talked about a while back, is that points and rewards are something that used to drive loyalty, but now it's everything about, are you matching users with the right customer experience? Are you helping them with a good recovery if they have a bad experience? Are you also aligning your values as a company to things they care about? I think these are all the things that help develop a strong community, and that it's something that probably we talked about as an ad hoc many years ago, but now it's becoming much more front and center. And I think, we, along with others, I consider Peloton in the same bucket, Topgolf, Fiverr, these are all community-based tech platforms that have people who are, sell to survive, are selling a service or a good, but want to also interact with the people on the platform in another meaningful way besides in a commerce way. And I think thinking through that experience and developing that first and foremost is how I think you're going to grow as a brand, because it isn't simply just by, visuals and brand marketing. It's really going to be through a very strong community development.
Yeah, it's that emotional engagement. And I love that. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. I'm looking forward to continuing to be a posher and finally getting something sold at some point.
I know you have it in you. I can totally see it. Like, I'm sure you have a lot of gorgeous items that you can find a second home. So never be afraid to sell it. Someone wants it.
Oh, I will. I will. Thank you. And have a good rest of your day. Thanks for being part of the Brand Disruption Summit.
Thank you so much.